Alma's people, they just escaped from King Noah.
Yeah.
And they want to make Alma their king.
Yeah, seems pretty logical.
You think so?
They trust him. He's a capable leader.
But, Alma...
He pushes back.
He says no.
And his reasons are really insightful.
Yeah.
In Mosiah 3.7.
Good.
He says, "Behold, it is not expedient that we should have a king. For thus saith the Lord, you shall not esteem one flesh above another, or one man shall not think himself above another. Therefore I say unto you, it is not expedient that you should have a king."
So he's connecting
Exactly.
a king with inequality.
Yeah, and pride.
That's a pretty radical statement for back then.
It really is. I mean, think about it. Kings were the norm.
Yeah, everybody had a king.
And he's not power hungry.
No, he could have easily said yes.
Easily taken that throne.
So it shows humility,
It really does.
but also an understanding of human nature.
Yeah, he'd seen what power can do.
Especially with King Noah.
Oh, absolutely. And he actually mentions that.
He does.
In verses 8 and 9 of Mosiah 23. He says, "Nevertheless, if it were possible that you could always have just men to be your kings, it would be well for you to have a king. But remember the iniquity of King Noah and his priests, and I myself was caught in a snare, and did many things which were abominable in the sight of the Lord, which caused me sore repentance."
He admits his own past.
Sins.
It's not self-righteousness, it's genuine.
Yeah, he understands how easy it is to fall.
Exactly. And it gives more weight to his rejection of being king.
He's not saying he's better.
No.
He's saying the system is flawed.
The system itself tempts good people
To do bad things.
to unrighteous dominion
And so then he focuses on teaching his people,
instead of laws.
or hierarchy.
Right.
He really emphasizes spiritual freedom.
You see that in Mosiah 23.1:14.
Okay. He tells them, "And now I say unto you, ye have been oppressed by King Noah, and have been in bondage to him and his priests, and have been brought into iniquity by them. Therefore ye were bound with the bands of iniquity. And now, as ye have been delivered by the power of God out of these bonds, yea, even out of the hands of King Noah and his people, and also from the bonds of iniquity, even so, I desire that ye should stand fast in this liberty wherewith ye have been made free, and that ye trust no man to be a king over you."
Free from all bondage.
Not just physical bondage.
He's saying, look, you've seen political oppression,
Right.
but spiritual oppression is even worse.
More insidious.
Yeah, he wants them to have a higher level of freedom,
One rooted in God.
not a system.
Exactly.
And he establishes a church
Instead of a kingdom.
in verse 16 of Mosiah 23.
Okay.
Thus did Alma teach his people that every man should love his neighbor as himself, that there should be no contention among them. And now Alma was their high priest, he being the founder of their church.
A community based on love and unity.
And the leadership in this community is based on righteousness.
Yes, not lineage or power.
In verses 17 and 18 of Mosiah 23.
It says, "And it came to pass that none received authority to preach or to teach, except it were by him from God. Therefore he consecrated all their priests and all their teachers, and none were consecrated except they were just men. Therefore they did watch over their people and did nourish them with things pertaining to righteousness."
The emphasis is on character.
And a divine calling.
They thrived under this leadership.
They did. Mosiah 23.1920 tells us, "And it came to pass that they began to prosper exceedingly in the land, and they called the land Helam. And it came to pass that they did multiply and prosper exceedingly in the land of Helam, and they built a city, which they called the city of Helam."
They built a city. They're living the good life.
Right.
But trials are never far off.
No, they're not. Verse 21 says, "Nevertheless the Lord seeth fit to chasten his people, yea, he trieth their patience and their faith."
Growth comes through challenge.
It does. It's a universal law.
And the challenge comes in the form of the Lamanites.
Oh, the Lamanites.
They show up on the borders of Helam.
Okay.
And verses 25 and 26 describe the fear.
"For behold, it came to pass that while they were in the land of Helam, yea, in the city of Helam, while tilling the land round about, behold, an army of the Lamanites was in the borders of the land. Now it came to pass that the brethren of Alma fled from their fields and gathered themselves together in the city of Helam. And they were much frightened because of the appearance of the Lamanites."
Working your fields.
Yeah.
And you see an army.
Terrifying.
But Alma doesn't panic.
No, he doesn't.
He goes out and in Mosiah 23.27
Okay.
exhorted them that they should not be frightened, but that they should remember the Lord their God, and he would deliver them.
He reminds them of their strength.
Their faith.
Yes.
And they turn to prayer.
They do, in verse 28. Therefore they hushed their fears and began to cry unto the Lord that he would soften the hearts of the Lamanites, that they would spare them and their wives and their children.
They choose faith,
Instead of fear.
and the Lord answers their prayers.
He's-
But not how they expected.
It's a really interesting turn of events.
Okay.
We'll get into that next time. So the Lord softens the hearts of the Lamanites,
Okay.
but not to drive them off.
Right.
In Mosiah 23.29-30 it says, "And it came to pass that the Lord did soften the hearts of the Lamanites. And Alma and his brethren went forth and delivered themselves up into their hands, and the Lamanites took possession of the land of Helam. Now the armies of the Lamanites, which had followed after the people of King Limhi, had been lost in the wilderness for many days."
They surrender
Nidu.
to an enemy army.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a victory.
It's not the answer they wanted,
No.
but sometimes the Lord's ways are not our ways.
Okay.
And this sets the stage for a familiar character, Amulon,
Oh,
your
Amulon
wicked priest.
from King Noah's court.
Yeah, what's he been up to?
I don't know.
Well, he's been wandering in the wilderness with
Lord.
some other priests. They stumbled upon the Lamanites.
Oh, wow.
Mosiah 23.31 says, "And behold, they had found those priests of King Noah in a place which they called Amulon, and they had begun to possess the land of Amulon and had begun to till the ground."
So he's in a position to influence the Lamanites.
Yeah, he
Amulon always sees an opportunity.
does. He's very cunning.
And he uses this to his advantage.
Absolutely. He understands their customs and their language.
Gives him a significant advantage.
Yeah, in Mosiah 23.33-35 it says, "And it came to pass that Amulon did plead with the Lamanites. And he also set forth their wives, who were the daughters of the Lamanites, to plead with their brethren that they should not destroy their husbands. And the Lamanites had compassion on Amulon and his brethren, and did not destroy them because of their wives. And Amulon and his brethren did join the Lamanites, and they were traveling in the wilderness in search of the land of Nephi when they discovered the land of Helam, which was possessed by Alma and his brethren."
So Amulon joins the Lamanites.
Right.
And then they find Alma.
Who had just surrendered to those same Lamanites.
Talk about irony.
It's almost like a divine setup
Yeah, you've got Alma trying to lead his people,
to safety and freedom.
and Amulon, this corrupt priest.
Now he can influence their fate.
Classic good versus evil.
It really is.
And Amulon doesn't use his influence for good.
No, he sees Alma and his people as a way to gain power.
He manipulates the situation
He does.
to become a leader.
Yeah, convinces the Lamanites to let him rule over Alma's people.
And in Mosiah 23.36-39,
It says, "And it came to pass that the Lamanites promised unto Alma and his brethren, that if they would show them the way which led to the land of Nephi, that they would grant unto them their lives and their liberty. But after Alma had shown them the way that led to the land of Nephi, the Lamanites would not keep their promise, but they set guards round about the land of Helam over Alma and his brethren. And the remainder of them went to the land of Nephi, and a part of them returned to the land of Helam, and also brought with them the wives and the children of the guards who had been left in the land. And the king of the Lamanites had granted unto Amulon that he should be a king and a ruler over his people who were in the land of Helam. Nevertheless, he should have no power to do anything contrary to the will of the king of the Lamanites."
so the Lamanites break their promise.
They do.
And Alma's people are stuck with the tyrant again.
This time it's Amulon.
How do they react to this?
Their faith is truly tested.
They had just escaped King Noah
Right. And now they face this new oppression.
from Amulon.
It's a reminder that trials can still come.
Even when you're following the Lord.
Yes, freedom is a constant struggle.
And in these moments,
Their true character is revealed.
do you give in to despair?
Or do you hold on to your faith?
And Alma and his people,
They find amazing ways to hold on.
even under Amulon's rule.
Their resilience is inspiring,
Amulon tries to extinguish their faith.
but he underestimates the power of the human spirit.
This time, Amulon really tightens the screws.
Yeah, he's not content with just making them labor.
Yeah.
He goes after their faith.
Like he learned nothing from King Noah
Except King Noah wanted riches.
and daughters.
Amulon wanted to control their hearts and minds.
In Mosiah 24.7
It says, "And it came to pass that the priests of King Noah, seeing that the Lamanites kept them in guard, and that they would not allow them to go back to the land of Nephi to possess their wives and their children, therefore they were exceedingly wroth, and they were about to return to the land of Nephi, contrary to the commands of the king. And Amulon commanded them that they should stop. And it came to pass that they did stop, according to the word of Amulon. And Amulon said unto them, Have ye forgotten the captivity of our fathers? Yea, and more especially have you forgotten the Lord our God.
He uses their fear against
We're
them.
longing for their families.
It's classic manipulation.
And then he twists the knife even further
Oh.
in Mosiah 24.011.
Okay.
He says, "And now, my brethren, do you suppose that the Lord will deliver us out of the hands of this people? Behold, we are a great people. Let us not be smitten thus at the pleasure of these filthiness to be slain, or to be reduced to captivity to these cursed heretics. Yea, let us rather preserve our liberties and our families and our wives and our children, that they fall not into the hands of the Lamanites."
He calls the Lamanites heretics.
That's rich coming from him.
I know, and he convinces them to go along with
They
it.
were desperate and vulnerable.
But it also shows the seductive nature of power.
It does. Amulon aligns himself with the Lamanites
Uses their prejudice.
to gain control and authority.
In Mosiah 24.1314.
It says, "Now it was the desire of Amulon that King Laman should come into this part of the land, that he might have an opportunity to flatter him with his words, that he might raise himself in the estimation of the king, that he might have an opportunity to oppress the people of Nephi, that they might not come into the knowledge of the Lord their God."
Alma is about serving the Lord.
Right.
Amulon is about serving himself.
Gaining worldly power.
He takes away their freedom to worship,
Yeah. He manipulates the Lamanite king.
to enforce his will.
It's sad, really.
In Mosiah 24.17-21.
It says, "And now it came to pass that Amulon and his brethren prevailed so far as to cause the Lamanites to enforce a law throughout all the land, which they had gotten possession of, that they should no more observe to keep their Sabbath days holy, nor to offer up their sacrifices, neither to pray nor to fast, neither should they make any mention of the Lord their God. And it was against the nature of this people to swear oaths, but Amulon taught them that they should swear by the name of the Great Spirit. And this they did swear by the name of the Great Spirit, that they would destroy the people of Nephi and their synagogues, that they would murder and plunder and steal, even till they had destroyed them and gained the possession of their lands. And thus the Lamanites, through the persuasion of Amulon, did stumble. And thus the curse of God did fall upon this people because of their iniquity and their wickedness and their whoredoms,
They escaped one form of bondage,
only to be shackled by another.
but their faith shines through.
It does.
They could have given in to despair.
But they found a way to connect with God
How do they worship?
when they can't even speak the name of God.
I don't know.
They pray secretly.
In their hearts.
Their faith becomes a private experience.
They couldn't control what was happening around them.
But they could control what was happening inside.
That's where they found strength.
And solace.
They knew they weren't alone.
Even when facing obstacles.
Their faith remained
Unshaken.
and kept their beliefs alive.
In their hearts.
A powerful lesson for us.
We all face trials.
Moments of doubt.
Uncertainty.
Maybe even questioning God.
We need to find ways to nourish our faith.
Even if it's in the quiet corners of our hearts.
Like Alma's people.
We hope you've enjoyed this discussion.
Be sure to follow our podcast and subscribe for more discussions.